Remember one time when I was a kid, my sister and I were watching One Piece together. And so we're sitting there on the TV, we're watching it, and my mom and dad walk in. And I didn't have anything to hide, right? I was watching One Piece. But right as they walked in, there's a scene in which I forget whether it was Nami or Robin or some other lady in One Piece, but she is just basically hanging there with the biggest breasts ever and the skimpiest bra and it's jiggling and stuff. And that's happening right as my parents walk in. And I remember thinking, oh my God, what are our parents going to think? They're going to think that we're the biggest gooners ever to be existing, right? They're going to be like, what are these cartoons that these kids watch? What is this inappropriate stuff? And I was like getting ready to defend it, like, no, it's One Piece and One Piece is great. And no, it's not like that. Don't judge it based on this one scene. It's the sum of its parts better than this. And my parents didn't say anything, right? And that kind of folded over. But I still vividly remember that moment and thinking, what would other people think if they see us watching this? And it's such a shame, and especially in One Piece's case. One Piece is my favorite anime. And so I started watching this thing back when I was in high school. I first got exposed to it when I bought Shonen Jump. Though they used to have the monthly magazines out in like Walmart and stuff, where it's just different mangas, right? Like Naruto, One Piece, Hakusho, Gintama, maybe a couple others. But like I remember reading One Piece and I was like, wow, this manga is super, super cool. And back then when I started, it was during the Little Garden arc. That tells you how far back it was, right? But then that's what got me exposed to One Piece in general. And I realized that, dude, One Piece is such an incredible anime where the world building, all these islands that they have, the crew goes to all these different islands, but all these islands have different characters. And these different characters all have different interactions with each other, and their lives are existing too. And like, for example, with the reveries happening and the effects that happen at the reverie affects all the different countries that the Straw Hats have visited. And characters like Vivi, they have their own lives separate from the Straw Hats. And I always thought that was fascinating. The mysteries the show has made. Joy Boy and the Poneglyphs, the Void Century, even like earlier on, okay, the Yonko, how are they going to beat Kaido? What's Kaido's devil fruit, right? It's been engaging the entire way through. Even now, I think the anime is the most engaging it's ever been, or the manga in the Elbaf arc. But so it's so epic. The characters are really cool, right? The fights, some great fights. The character writing. You can't look at me and tell me that Water 7 and Enies Lobby is not peak anime writing across the entire genre, not just in One Piece, right? That two arc span. It made me cry over a ship. A ship broke, and I fucking cried over it. That's how good the writing is in One Piece. That's how potential the peak is for writing in One Piece. But it just gets held down by this fan service because people will look at it and be like, "Oh, this is dumb." I have my normal friends and who are not into this stuff, and if I tell them to go watch One Piece, they're not really exposed to this Japanese culture, so they don't really like it because they're like, "What the hell is this? This is so stupid." And from an outsider perspective, I'm like, "Yeah, I get it." I remember there's another anime that I really liked, No Game, No Life. This one's a more of an obscure one, and I think it was only like 10, 12 episodes. I don't even remember the premise of it now, but I remember watching it and being like, wow, this concept is sick, whatever the premise was. But the one thing that stood out was the protagonist's little sister. I think she was like 12 or 14, and she's super sexualized. I was like, okay, what the fuck? WTF, right? That's where I think the newer animes like Attack on Titan were so refreshing because it didn't really have any sexualization and it showed that you can tell an incredible anime story without needing sexualization to keep the audience hooked. So I think the newer ones are getting better. For example, Demon Slayer, right? There's way less sexualization, but there still is, right? There's that one. What do you call the Hashira? What's the Hashira? She has the pink hair, the green kimono, and of course for her chest is literally just hanging out. And yeah, it's fan service, man. And in my opinion, I think the fan service is dragging down anime and manga as a whole. And they include it just because there's so many gooners out there. I'm sure in Japan as well too, right? They get exposed to this stuff and it keeps them engaged, keeps them hooked. A lot of people are into hentai. And I'm not here to judge, right? Everyone can be into their own thing. My opinion, though, is that it brings down anime and manga as a medium. It distracts from the incredible storytelling, the animation, the world building, the characters that this medium has. It just distracts from it all. And I think that more people would give it a chance and take it more seriously if it didn't have this ridiculous fan service that was going on. So yeah, here's to hoping that we get rid, or at least that it starts trending downward. A lot of the fan service, so the core elements of the medium, the manga, the anime can shine. Because that's the whole mission of this, right? I've had such getting into anime, manga, video games. It's changed my life. It's helped me connect with so many different people. It inspired me to start a cosplay runway show, right? My practice, my private practice psychiatry is called Level Up Psychiatry. Again, inspired by video games, right? I love this stuff, and I want more people to be able to embrace it and celebrate it, bring it into their own lives. And so I think that bringing out fan service is one way to do that. So yeah, that's my soapbox on that. Yeah, but yeah, I mentioned Cosplay X Couture. That's our fashion runway show. So you can definitely check that out in New York and Miami. Our mission is to elevate cosplay to mainstream fashion to celebrate the work that cosplayers do. So check that out. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.